Hi, everybody. My name's Paul Morgan, and I am a sports shooter who is based in Spokane, Washington. Well, I'm kind of an everything shooter, but sports is one of my big passions. And I had a couple of my colleagues ask me about shooting hockey and dealing with noise. So I wanted to talk real briefly about a couple of things that I do to help keep the noise down in my hockey photos. So I've got a selection of 4 photos here. I've done some cropping and other editing on these. I made sure they were sharp and all that kind of fun stuff up front. I am shooting with the Canon 7D, the original 7D, which is known for being a bit noisy. As you can see, I'm shooting here, I'm exposing to the right, which I think is really important with the 7D. It's important with all cameras, but the 7D is particularly sensitive to it when it comes to noise. You can see my settings, ISO 3200, so I'm starting to get pretty high there. 1/500th of a second at f2.8, so we're shooting wide open, trying to get that light in there. We are shooting under fluorescent lights here, but the lighting is decent. I wouldn't call it great, but it's not bad either. Don't really have problems with focusing and things like that if I'm not shooting through the glass, which is a whole nother story. The auto white balance does tend to work quite well, although I am not perfectly happy with it, but it's easy enough to make some minor adjustments and get things where I'd like. I use presets. I like using presets. I learned a lot about presets from Jared Platt, good landscape photographer and wedding photographer based out of Arizona. I have a couple of presets that I use. I bring my images in with no settings. I don't add anything coming in except a touch of sharpening. So they're basically fairly neutral coming in as a raw file. I have a basic no people preset and a basic people preset. You could apply these settings or these effects when you bring them in when you originally import. I choose to wait and only apply it to the images that I choose to work on, the images I intend to keep. The difference between my no people preset and my people preset, the only difference is whether I use vibrance or saturation. Saturation brings up and brightens all of your colors, and the vibrance goes easy on the reds, yellows, and oranges, which are skin tones. And if you push saturation too far on a person, which is why I have a people and a no people, I use the vibrance for the people, and it helps keep their skin tones where I like them. So let me go through real quick and show you what we have here for settings now. There's pretty much everything is straight down the middle, a touch of sharpening, and no noise reduction, nothing else at this point. And you'll see in this 100% view that we do have some graininess, and if I click through all the images here, you will see that there is graininess in all of the images, and a large part of that is the sharpening. So let me show you. If I take this sharpening down, watch that window, and you can see some of that go away. But we also lose some of that crispness on those edges. So we'll put that back to default here. And this is where the masking comes in. This is a very powerful tool that a lot of people may not know about, or a few people, new users don't necessarily know about it. If you hold your Alt key before you click with the mouse, and once you click the mouse, it shows you the mask. Now this is just like a Photoshop mask. White means it's showing or it's sharpening, and black means, as I slide this mask slider up, black means that it is not sharpening or it is not adding graininess, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to get this to where that image in the 100% window is completely black. And then I'm going to let go, and you can see how it smoothed this out some. Not completely, but some. It's gotten rid of a lot of that grain. If I slide this back down, you'll see that graininess come back in here. And that's the only thing that I'm adding as a preset when I bring it in. Now this preset, my basic people preset, I'm going to scroll back up to the top here so you can see. Watch the histogram, shooting to exposing to the right, 1.5 to 2 stops over on my meter. We've got a little bit of black flagging here, and we have a little bit on the top end flagging too. I'm going to hit that basic people preset, and you can see it spread that out. It blackened our blacks just a little bit, and it whitened our whites just a little bit. Not a lot, just a touch. And what I did here is I added plus 25 contrast and plus 10 clarity. And that is where we see that difference in our histogram. I also added plus 10 vibrance just to give a nice little pop. I don't want to overdo it. Hue, saturation, luminance are all straight down the middle, no changes there. And you can see here I have a masking of 75 that I'm putting in my preset over my sharpening. And that helps, again, smooth this out where it was nice and grainy. I like to bump that up to 80 or 85 because I only want just those edges to be nice and crispy, and it helps keep that noise out. I also do some noise reduction. I'm using Lightroom CC. The noise reduction in it is pretty good. There are specialized programs out there, but for what I'm doing with any kind of volume, this works really well for me. I do add, at ISO 3200, I do add a little bit more noise reduction. I bump it up to 30. Other than that, all the other settings stay the same. No changes there. And then, of course, tweaking the white balance to taste. For me, white balance to taste on this particular ice is around 4600. The 45, 46, 47 is a good range for the tint. Brings in a little bit of blueness into his uniform, which contrasts from the yellow dirty ice, which isn't terribly yellow and dirty, but relatively so. The only other change I would make to this set of images is this, I believe, is a little on the dark side. So I would bring the exposure up about 4 or 5 tenths, and there you go. That is how I handle my hockey editing. Dealing with noise in the 7D original by exposing to the right, masking my sharpening, and adding a touch of luminance noise reduction. Again, my name is Paul Morgan. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something, and you have a great day.